Hey, good afternoon, everybody. David Tillman here with Swift Safety. Hey, want to talk to you today about winter preparation and fortunate enough to have three of our diamond drivers join us for a discussion on, preparing for the winter. Safe driving habits, preparing your equipment, just preparing yourself mentally to drive through some of the harshest conditions that we see all year. So I'm really excited to talk with some of our driving associates, and then I've also got Tracy Dover, terminal leader out of Denver, Kaylin, our terminal leader out of Sumner. We're lucky enough to join us today, as well as one of our regional safety leaders, Brett Hadley. So on with us today, I've got JTC, diamond driver out of Denver. Been with the company for a long time. I've got Jason, another diamond driver out of our Lewiston terminal. Been with Swift for actually 21 years. Quite an accomplishment there. And then we're also fortunate enough to have one of our diamond drivers, Mike, joining us out of that Sumner terminal. So we've got a wealth of knowledge with us today. And with that, I'd kind of like to jump in, and start first with what our diamond drivers, what advice they can give to drivers that are going through their first winter. Can be pretty daunting, as you can imagine. So I'm going to turn it over to JTC out of Denver first. If you could just talk a little bit about what advice you'd have for our drivers that are actually going to go through their first winter.
Thanks, David. A couple of things that I've told students in the past is always try to remember a couple of acronyms. First is ICE, and that just stands for I control everything. Now, this is your first time out there. You haven't experienced this before. The road conditions are going to be completely different than what you're accustomed to. This is a different ball game. Spring, summer, fall. I look at that as like spring training. And the winter time comes, it's time to put on the cleats and really get out there and hustle. And what that means is you control it. You control everything from your speed, from how you interact with your customers, but most importantly is you cannot be pressured and you cannot feel pressure from anyone. The ice and the snow they're not forgiving whatsoever. So you control everything. I control everything. And then the other acronym that I look for is SNOW. That just means stop now. Trust your gut, your instinct. If you feel your spidey senses are tingling, your still small voice that you have inside of you, whatever it is, if you just don't feel comfortable, stop. Get off the interstate, get off the highway, get off the road to a safe haven, and just pull over. Those are the two most important things that I see out there for first-time drivers.
Phenomenal advice. I really appreciate that, JT. I think that's very sound advice. If we could go over to Jason out of Lewiston.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, David. My advice is to the young drivers and drivers of all is the things that I've experienced over my 21 years of driving, and I've pretty much been stuck up here in the Northwest, which I love it. It's great. Lots of snow we deal with up here, lots of chaining, lots of adverse weather conditions. My biggest thing that I will tell people, we all have smartphones nowadays. Go out, there's 3, 4, 5 different apps you can load. The one I prefer is the Weather Channel app, works great. It tracks you where you're kind of going so you can plan for the road conditions, and it'll send you updates if there's accidents, if there's anything going on, chain laws, anything like that. So it helps in there. My biggest advice is slow down if you don't feel comfortable out there. And if it's really bad conditions, pull over. It's that simple. We're the ones that control our own ship and our own destiny driving down the road. Swift appreciates it when the drivers are to let them know, hey, the roads are really bad. They're going to tell you to pull over and just stop. Wait out the conditions. Just be safe out there. Use your heads. Don't let the tension build too much, because trust me, I'm going to tell you this now. I experience it every year myself after 21 years. Usually when the first snowfall hits, my shoulders get tense. You'll feel yourself grip that wheel tighter. Stop. Pull over. go into a truck stop, get a cup of coffee, go into a restroom, whatever you need to do. Relax, think about it. Everything will be okay.
Yeah, that's sound advice, and you're absolutely right. From a safety department and all the terminal leaders on this call can vouch for this as well. You're empowered to make that decision to get off the road and get off the road safely. And just as a reminder, when we say pull over, certainly don't pull over right on the highway and put yourself in a bad spot, but get off, truck stop, terminal, wherever, a safe location where you're keeping yourself and your equipment out of harm's way and protecting other motorists as well. But phenomenal advice. If we may have lost Mike. Mike, are you on the call at all? So, no.
David, if I could add something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, right now, the big push with the cameras and all the safety stuff that's been going on over the last year or two has been a real big push for safe following distance. And along with that analogy I was using earlier about how this is spring training, it's so critical in the wintertime to really make sure that you have a safe following distance. It's greater than what you would normally have. This time of year is a time to be practicing to develop those muscle memory and mental memory so that you're already prepared for when the weather changes from rain to freezing rain. You've already put that into practice. And, the last thing we want to see is that mom and two kids in a minivan, suffer because, we haven't practiced well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We aren't in the thick of the adverse driving conditions yet. We're seeing spots of it across the country, but developing those habits now, increasing that following distance, creating spaces is of the utmost importance, not only protecting ourselves, but it gives us time to react to potential errors about the motorists. So really good point there. Well, the next question I'd like to kind of go into would be, what steps do you take as far as your pre and post trip inspection during the winter? Obviously, it's important to do all year, but when it comes to winter driving, there's specific, I think, things we look at to really make sure we're preparing ourselves for success out there. And JTC, I'll go back to you first on how you approach that.
Well, several things occur, whether it's overnight after you've parked and you went to sleep and there was no snow, and then you wake up and all of a sudden there's snow. And the temperatures have gone from, like in Colorado here, it can go from 90 one day down to 28 the next day. Your tire pressure significantly drops in the cold. You can get frozen air lines. Your brakes could have frozen overnight. You may have to crawl underneath the truck, the trailer, tap on those brake shoes gently to try to break some ice. Sometimes you get cracked plastics. The rubber hoses can get too hard and become brittle over time. Your heated mirrors, that's something that you don't necessarily look for in the summertime, but in the wintertime, you need to be checking that those heated mirrors are working. And if they're not, you need to get to the closest shop and get them fixed, because those are very critical. So your reflective tape, we could go on and on. Wipe off the reflective tape, clean it off, and poor visibility. Sometimes that's all another driver's going to see when his lights are hitting you. Keeping some alcohol handy so that as you're doing your pre-trip, you want to push on those washer button to make sure your washer fluid comes out. The last thing you want to do is get on the freeway, get on the road somewhere, and you go, I've got to push some washer fluid because I'm starting to get a little bit, and then it's not working. Well, if you'd have pre-tripped that and found that it might have been frozen a little bit, you could add just a little bit of alcohol, not a lot, because you can damage the rubber over time, but just a little bit of alcohol will help dry out unfreeze those trouble spots.
Great. Jason, what advice would you have as far as your pre and post trip preparation in the winter?
Well, JT took a bunch of mine, but I obviously have been driving for about the same time frame. So my advice is, JT gave a lot of great advice. The alcohol thing works highly. You can, and a lot of times in the winter, especially in the Northwest, you know, we deal with a lot of ice, a lot of snowpack. Always, I mean, I find myself doing this a lot. I drive a Volvo, so it has the LED headlights. So you have to stop a little bit more often to make sure that you're clearing off the headlights, clearing off your tail lights, especially because it doesn't take long in a major snowstorm. You're driving down the road and let's say you're doing 40, 50 mile an hour in a blowing snowstorm. All that snow packs up underneath your lights towards the back. So you always need to make sure you have great visibility and just walk around your truck 2 or 3 times a day. That's what I'm always doing. And sometimes more, kicking the ice off, listening for air leaks. If you start to develop air leaks, either you have some spare parts with you to replace and fix the air leaks, or you know, you call on road and you get to the closest shop to get the air leaks reported. Because how are our trucks operated? They're all operated by brakes, which are air related and assisted. So we need to make sure that our air system is working great. That's my biggest thing that I always look for, is that your tires are full. You want to check your tires, especially in the wintertime. You drive down roads, they've thrown up chain law. Well, lots of people don't know how to put on chains properly. They break, you run over chains, you get chains in your tires. Now you have leaks in your tires. So just lots of precautionary things you can never stop too much.
Great points. And it looks like Mike was able to join us again, and that's great. So I'm actually going to ask a question to Mike. Mike, if you could really quick talk a little bit about what items are essential to have on your truck with you in the winter. What are some of those items that you don't go anywhere without?
Couple things. Number one, I kind of separate them into things that my vehicle will need and things that I will need to be comfortable in it. For the vehicle, obviously chains, plenty of windshield wiper fluid, all of your normal essentials. But a couple of things that I add in on that. Number one, a small squirt bottle with denatured alcohol. For guys that haven't done any winter driving, your trailer tends to freeze up. The trailer breaks a lot. So don't set your trailer brakes if you're in really cold weather. But when you connect to a trailer or when you get up and do your pre-trip in the morning, if you just put a couple of drops of denatured alcohol into the grommets where they connect, it'll help the ice to thaw out if it's starting to build up in your brake lines, and it'll also help you break them free. Other than that, I just make sure that I've got the clothing that's going to allow me. Most of the time it's for chaining and or gassing up. When you're out in Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, you know, and the temperature outside's 35 below, you got to have the proper clothing in there. There are a lot of things that guys will pick up on as they go. The biggest advice I could give guys is when you're sitting in a truck stop like I am right now, especially in the winter time, there are a lot of Swift drivers out there, and go talk to them.
Yeah. You know, that's great advice just in general. I mean, we have 20-something thousand odd drivers out there. You have a tremendous support system out on the road with just Swift drivers by themselves. So, and we see time and time again our drivers taking care of each other. I mean, we take a lot of pride in that, and we've got some of the best in the industry. So if I could switch gears just momentarily, and we're getting tight on time, but just want to get with Brett, Tracy, and Kalen. You deal with a lot of drivers and owners on a daily basis, and just want to get your thoughts on, coaching them through. The question comes up all the time: do I have the empowerment to shut down the truck if I feel safe? And just talk about how you communicate that out to your fleets. And Tracy, I'll start with you first.
Okay, thanks, David. I think that the drivers nailed that when they were talking about it and being empowered. The one thing that we teach all of our drivers right from the very beginning when they climb into a mentor's truck is you have the power to say no, and you have the support of your terminal and your safety team to do the right thing if you're acting in a safe manner. and that's regardless weather, fatigue, or whatever the case may be. So we always coach these guys right from the very beginning. And if they get to a place where they do get that pressure, I know JTC and Jason covered that a little bit, feeling that pressure, because it does happen. This is an industry where folks have been around for a long time and may not be thinking along the same lines all the time. But we just ask them to, that if you feel that pressure, please contact us so that we can take care of it for you and know that you're making the right decision. I think it's important that they know that.
Awesome. Kaylin, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think, like Tracy said, the guys have already touched on it a lot, but the biggest factor is preparation. Preparation as far as your equipment, preparation as far as your knowledge, making sure you go through the training classes, etc. And, the philosophy is, if you do have to throw chains are to get you out of trouble, not get you into trouble. So it's to get to a safe place to shut down. And ultimately, we rely on our drivers a lot as far as their comfort level. Different people are comfortable depending on the weather conditions. So if you're not comfortable, even if we feel it's safe, even if other drivers think it's safe, we do encourage you to shut down, because we don't want you out there if you're not in the right mindset. And being scared is a good indicator that something could go wrong. And there are other times, even if somebody is comfortable, we're going to shut it down on your behalf. The safety is the most important thing. We can reschedule a load. We're happy to pay layover, whatever the case is, in order to make sure that you're safe, make sure that everybody gets there in one piece.
Yeah, well said. And Brad, anything to add there?
Yeah, so the thing that I would add for our drivers is, like Kaylin and Tracy said, most of our serious crashes in the winter take place because our drivers are driving too fast for the conditions. So in winter weather conditions, we just need to make sure that our speed is appropriate for the conditions. And if it's too bad out there, like has been said already, just make sure to find a safe and legal place to shut it out and wait out the storm, and then get back on the road again and proceed when it's safe to do so. Because like was mentioned, we can reschedule, but we cannot reschedule someone's life.
Yeah, very, very sobering point and very true. So, well, hey, we've ran our time limit up pretty good, but I do want to thank JTC, Jason, Mike, our terminal leaders, everyone on the call for making some time to talk with our drivers. For our drivers out there that are going to be watching this, we do empower you. We place a lot of trust in you, and I truly believe we have some of the best in the industry, and we have extremely high expectations, but that's because we know our drivers can execute on those expectations. And winter's coming up. We definitely need to be prepared. We've got training courses on Swift University that we put out there. We'll continue to put content out there in an effort to keep things fresh. But ultimately, we're looking forward to a very safe winter and a very sound performance from all of our folks. So appreciate everybody's time. Be safe out there and have a great rest of your day.